Welcome, everybody, to NFL Central. This will be the weekly show about the NFL, sometimes 2 times a week, depending on if some big stuff happened and if there's enough to talk about for an episode. But I will be doing NFL analysis, I will be doing NFL predictions, some hot takes. I will be predicting the next week, and I will be ranking quarterbacks and teams weekly, just like power rankings that you see on the NFL shows. And then I'll do an occasional Madden gameplay. It'll be sporadic, but we'll see what happens with that. So, the first thing on the agenda today is to talk about Week 6 of the NFL. This was a very important week because it was very telling for some teams that we thought were good that may not be as good as we thought. An example would be Green Bay, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The first game I want to talk about is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts won 31-27, but the Cincinnati Bengals led most of the game, and they blew the lead. Philip Rivers actually had a really nice second half. He was able to make a comeback. He threw 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. That is a big improvement from what he's done recently. He's been throwing way too many interceptions. I was calling for his job after last week. I don't like how he's been playing, and I think their third-string quarterback, actually, Jacob Eason, who was drafted out of Washington in the 4th round, is actually I think he's a very good quarterback. He was number 2 on my draft board. He's got a big arm. He had some maturity issues, but I think learning behind Philip Rivers will help him with that. And I do think he is the future for the Indianapolis Colts, so I would watch out for that. But it was a big comeback win for the Indianapolis Colts, who have a great defense, a great offensive line, and great receiving weapons. And the only thing that they really need is a competent quarterback, and I think Philip Rivers finally showed that he is capable of doing that. The next game I want to talk about is the Broncos at the Patriots. This was a really sloppy game on both sides. Both quarterbacks threw interceptions, 2 interceptions, I think. Drew Lock threw 2 interceptions late in the game. Cam Newton had a very... he didn't have a very good game. I can't blame him that much for that because he had COVID, so he's been out not practicing, and there's a reason teams practice. The Patriots haven't been able to practice a lot. I wouldn't freak out about this loss if I were a Patriots fan. It was in Denver. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was in New England. Still, I still wouldn't. I wouldn't freak out about this loss. There's a reason teams practice. New England wasn't able to practice a lot, and it showed. They'll be fine. Their biggest problem is that they don't have deep receiving threats. They need to get somebody in the trade deadline soon because their biggest deep threat is Bird, and he's not a. I mean, he was traded from the Cardinals, who was not even starting on their team, so he's not really a competent deep threat. They need somebody to help them in that area. This is why Tom Brady left, and it's looking like Tom Brady made the right decision as of right now, but we'll see. The next game is the Texans at the Titans, and the Texans had the Titans this whole game until the very end. Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry are literally that entire Titans team. Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill threw for 400 yards. Derrick Henry rushed for 200-plus yards. That's the first time that's ever been done in NFL history. It was a big game, and the Titans won in overtime. The thing that worries me about the Titans is the Texans are not a very good football team, and I don't like how close they are with like bad teams. I don't. That worries me, but also it was a divisional game. It was a rivalry, so I think it could be explained that way. I still think the Titans are a very good team. We'll get into my power rankings later, but they're very high up on there because they're a very good team. Biggest problem with them right now is that they lost their starting left tackle, Taylor Lewan, for the year. That will definitely hurt, and they're coming up and playing the Steelers next week, and the Steelers have a great pass rush, so that'll be a definite blow for the Tennessee Titans. Now we move on to the Ravens at the Eagles. That was a very close game, but again, the Ravens went out to a huge lead at the beginning and then blew it and let Carson Wentz come back, and it came down to a 2-point conversion. And thankfully, the Ravens defense stopped. Well, thankfully for the Ravens' sake, the Ravens stopped Carson Wentz and the Eagles on the 2-point try and didn't let them force overtime. So the Ravens won the game. But the Ravens are worrying me right now because Lamar Jackson seems to have hit a ceiling. He's regressed a lot this year. His mechanics are off. I wasn't very high on Lamar Jackson coming into this year anyway. I don't think he's going to last very long in the NFL. I think last year was a fluke. He has a great team around him. His receiving threats worry me. I don't think they're very talented. And I'm worried about Lamar Jackson. His regression is starting to show. And people probably won't agree with that, but I would watch some film on Lamar Jackson, and you'll see that he is regressing very much. And that'll be a problem for the Ravens. Another problem is he cannot play from behind. And especially when they get to the playoffs, because the Ravens will make the playoffs. When they get to the playoffs, if they're playing a good team, Lamar Jackson has been awful in the playoffs, especially when he's playing from behind. I just don't see the Ravens going very far. Next game we should talk about is the Falcons at the Vikings, and the Falcons finally got a first win. They finally jumped out to a lead big enough that they couldn't blow it, so that's good. Matt Ryan went off with 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. This was a great game for Matt Ryan. I think Falcons fans need to enjoy Matt Ryan while they can, because it's seeming like, if not before the trade deadline, at least in the offseason, this is Matt Ryan's last year in Atlanta, at least what I'm hearing. So Falcons fans need to enjoy it because Matt Ryan has been their greatest quarterback of all time by far, the Falcons' greatest quarterback of all time by far. And also Julio Jones had a great game, but I'm also hearing rumors about him leaving the team after this year, even before the trade deadline. So Falcons fans really need to enjoy it because they're the 2 best players the Falcons have ever had. So it was a good win for the Falcons. Moving on to the Browns at Steelers. The Browns got killed in this game. A lot of people want to blame Baker Mayfield, and I will get into Baker later. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to be fine. People are overreacting. Browns fans are pissing me off right now. But just talk about the game right now. Baker Mayfield had what it seemed like really hurt ribs, if not broken. The Steelers had a great pass rush. Hit him, hurt his ribs even more. They benched Baker Mayfield, not because of his poor play, which he was playing bad. It was because they did not want him to get any more hurt. The Steelers look like a very good team right now. I got worried about them the same reason I was worried about the Titans, because they were playing too close with bad teams like the Eagles. I didn't like that. The games were too close. But this game really shows what they're capable of. I really like it. I also like what Big Ben's doing this year. He's playing very well. So it was a great win for the Steelers. I don't think it'll be as close next time. With Baker Mayfield healthy, I do think the Browns will get the Steelers next time. But we'll see. The Steelers are a really good team and could prove me wrong. They're so talented. Chase Claypool is going to be a great receiver in the NFL. His past 2 weeks have been insane. He reminds me a lot of Calvin Johnson. Just that big, deep threat, big hands. He's a really good receiver. Finally starting to make Steelers fans forget about Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown, who we will get into later in the show, some rumors about him coming back. The next game we will get into is the Lions at Jaguars. Now, the Lions blew the Jaguars off the field. I think we all overreacted to the Jaguars at the beginning of the season, beating the Colts. They're not a good football team. Gardner Minshew is already regressing. It was fun while it lasted, but the Jaguars are awful. I don't think they'll get Trevor Lawrence. They're not the worst team in the NFL. The Jets are, obviously, but the Jaguars, they couldn't compete with the Lions. And the Lions now are starting to show what they're capable of. They have a lot of talent. I just don't think their coach is really capable of taking them to the next level. Matt Patricia is not a good coach. He'll be fired after this year, I think, regardless, unless they make the playoffs, but that will not happen. Next game is the Bears at the Panthers. The Bears won this game. Their defense is amazing. They shut down Tom Brady the week before, and now they shut down the Panthers, who were on a roll. The Panthers were doing very well. I'm very excited to see what the Bears can do. Their offense worries me. Nick Foles has not been playing that great, but he's been playing good enough, playing better than Mitchell Trubisky, which is good. The Bears needed that. They needed some consistency. Nick Foles does seem to be the answer for them at quarterback, at least for right now. He's not there for the long-term future, but it's good for them right now. I think the Bears are a good football team, and I do think the Panthers, they're not bad. They're mediocre. So I think the Bears are showing people who thought they were bad that they're not that bad. They're a good team. Watch out for the Bears. And especially after that Packers game, I think the Bears have a real shot about winning the division with that defense. The next game we get into is Washington at Giants. And these are two terrible teams, but it was actually a very close game, and it was a very enjoyable game to watch. It was 20-19, and the Reds. Oh, excuse me, I can't say the Redskins anymore. The Washington football team. Washington was going to go for 2 at the end of the game, and they missed it. So it was 20-19. The football team was going for the win. A lot of people don't agree with Ron Rivera's call. I agree with it. I think it was a good call. I think Washington was good to go for the win. They're not a very good team. They're only one game out of the division. Go for the win. I agree with the call. I am worried about Kyle Allen. I think that the long-term plan for the Washington football team is to get Alex Smith back into the mix eventually, but just trying to get him more comfortable. Neither one of these teams are going to make the playoffs. I think the division for that is going to come down to the Eagles or Cowboys, unless they get Alex Smith in there now, and then I think they have a shot. But Kyle Allen is not the guy who's going to take them there. The next game I want to talk about is the Jets at the Dolphins, and the Jets are horrible. They didn't even put up a point against the Dolphins. Obviously, we see with the game with Joe Flacco playing with Sam Darnold injured, it's not Sam Darnold's fault. I don't even think it all falls on Adam Gase. They just have no talent. The Jets have completely stripped the team of talent. The Jets are just a horrible football team. Adam Gase will and should be fired. I think he's a good offensive coordinator, not a good head coach. He'll get an offensive coordinator job somewhere. He was the offensive coordinator for the 2013 Denver Broncos team with Peyton Manning when he threw 55 touchdowns, so he's a good OC. I think he just needs the right fit somewhere else. But the Dolphins won 24-0 with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick starting probably his last game for the Dolphins ever. Tua is now the starter, but I'll talk about that later. But it was just a dominant win by the Dolphins. Tua completed 2 passes at the end of the game. That was really the story of the game. The next game I want to talk about is my favorite game of the week, Packers at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers won 38-10. The Packers jumped out to a 10-point lead at the beginning. It was 10-0, and then Aaron Rodgers threw an interception for a touchdown, pick 6. And then on the next drive, Aaron Rodgers threw another interception that was almost a pick 6. Aaron Rodgers played like garbage this game. He had an 18 QBR. Tom Brady had a 95.7. It was night and day. Rob Gronkowski's back. Rob Gronkowski caught, I think, 5 catches. That was big. He also caught a touchdown. It was a great win for the Buccaneers. Really showed what they're capable of, and probably showed that the Packers are not as good as everybody thought. I don't like how Aaron Rodgers played. I'll get into that more later, what I think he did. Aaron Rodgers is worrying me a little bit. This Packers team is not physical enough, and they don't have enough fight when they actually get into a dogfight with another team that is just as good or better than them. But I'll get into that later. The next game was the Rams at the 49ers. The 49ers had a bounce-back win here. The biggest story was Jimmy G finally played well, 3 touchdowns. That was big for him. But the stat line's kind of deceiving because the only reason he played that well, if you watched the game, was because they ran the football a lot. A lot of play action for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan knows that Jimmy G will not win this game with his arm. I do think that the 49ers will probably move off Jimmy G if they can get a good quarterback, and I'll talk about that later as well. I think if Kyle Shanahan can get this guy that I'm going to talk about later, I don't think he'll bring Jimmy G back. Jimmy G just does not seem to be the answer for them. They're a Super Bowl contender now, and they need somebody who's capable of that, and Jimmy G is not the guy. As we saw against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year, he's not the guy. He missed that skinny post at the end of the game that would have probably won them the game, and he missed it. He's just not good under pressure, and it's been evident this year as well when he got benched last week when he was playing the Dolphins. The next game I'm going to talk about is the Chiefs at the Bills, and the Bills, it's really unfortunate. They seem to be on a roll, but with all the COVID stuff that was happening, it seemed to be their roll was stopped. They had to take some time off. Then they lost to the Titans, which hurt their confidence, and now they've lost to the Chiefs, which the Chiefs is never a good game to play when you're trying to bounce back, because they're one of the hardest teams to beat in the league. Josh Allen does not seem to be good as we all initially thought. He missed a lot of throws against the Chiefs that were worrisome, so I think the MVP talks are done now. I think we all know who he is. He's an above-average quarterback. He's the answer for the Bills, for their franchise for the next 10, 15 years. He's a good quarterback. He'll always keep getting better, but I don't think he'll ever be that top 3 guy that we all thought he might be. The next game I'm going to talk about was the final game of the week. The Cardinals at Cowboys. This was ugly. This was really ugly. The Cardinals killed the Cowboys. The only thing that was holding the Cowboys together was Dak, and then that injury has completely destroyed the Cowboys. I would have said that the Cowboys would have won the division before this, but I don't think so anymore. Andy Dalton is not going to get it done. It was 38-10. This was ugly. The story of the game is Cardinals destroyed him. The Cowboys. It was bad. The Cowboys' defense is the worst in the league by far. This is Mike Nolan, their defensive coordinator, needs to be fired. If you've heard, Mike Nolan, the only reason he was fired was because Mike Nolan gave Mike McCarthy a chance back in 2005 with the 49ers, and so Mike McCarthy just owed him a favor. This was unbelievable. It's not good at all. The Cowboys are a mess. Now we are going to jump into our next section, NFL news and hot takes. The first piece of news to talk about is obviously that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be starting for the Dolphins in Week 9. They have a bye this week. And I like this decision because I like Tua, but it seems a little bit difficult for Tua to start this way because he's playing the Rams and Aaron Donald. And so he very well could get sacked 6 or 7 times in his first game, and that could ruin his confidence. So, although I like the move because I like Tua, I feel like they could have waited another week. But Tua's good. I think he is the second or third best quarterback from this class. If Jacob Eason can see the field, Tua's the third best. Obviously, Joe Burrow is the best, I think. But Tua is going to be a good quarterback. I would even say great. I think the Dolphins are back. I think he's going to lead them to the playoffs, maybe a Super Bowl in his career. It's hard to predict that now, but Tua is definitely the answer for the Dolphins at quarterback for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years with how long quarterbacks are playing right now. The only thing that keeps me from believing that my only holdback on Tua is his injuries, but I think the Dolphins have a good enough offensive line that he'll stay healthy for most of his career. He'll obviously miss some games, as every quarterback does, but Tua is going to be good. The next thing that I want to talk about is Antonio Brown's possible return. Now, this is just a rumor. His 8-game suspension is up at Week 8. I don't know if NFL teams are going to take a chance on him. He seems to have too much baggage. For me, I wouldn't sign him, but I've heard a lot of rumors about the Seattle Seahawks or Baltimore Ravens signing him. I think the number one team that really should sign him, though, is the Houston Texans. I don't think Seattle needs him. Baltimore could use him, but they seem pretty content with what they have. But Houston doesn't have that number one threat ever since they traded away DeAndre Hopkins, and Brandon Cooks isn't the answer there. So I think if anybody was going to sign Antonio Brown, it should be the Houston Texans. But I don't like if anybody signs Antonio Brown. Too much baggage with the thing he did with the Steelers, calling out everybody leaving, walking off practice, calling out literally everybody. The whole thing with the Raiders where he made a cinematic video of a private call with his coach and then acting like when they cut him he was being freed, and then going to the Patriots and having sexual assault allegations and then getting cut from the Patriots after one game. If you get cut by the Patriots, that's a big deal. So I don't like it if anybody's saying signs AB. So but I'm sure he'll get signed. He's very talented, but he's too much baggage. The next thing I want to go to is Baker Mayfield getting benched against the Steelers. A lot of Browns fans are calling for Baker Mayfield's job, and I don't like that at all. He's a good quarterback. He's the best quarterback the Browns have had in a long time. Possibly the best quarterback the Browns have had. I know you bring up Otto Graham or Bernie Kosar, but that's technically the Ravens now. That team folded in 1995 and moved to Baltimore and became the Ravens. The Cleveland Browns started in 1999 and have had nobody at quarterback. Literally nobody. Seneca Wallace has started for the Cleveland Browns. Charlie Whitehurst has started for the Cleveland Browns. Those are probably names you've never heard of. The Cleveland Browns have been a dumpster fire for quarterbacks. And now they're calling for Baker Mayfield's job when they finally have somebody who's a competent starter. This is unbelievable. I cannot believe that Browns fans are doing this. He didn't play well against the Steelers because he had broken ribs. It's kind of hard to throw with broken ribs. He's going to bounce back against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a good quarterback. You've got to give him time. I think that Baker Mayfield is going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league for a long time when he finally gets his groove back on like he did in his rookie year. The biggest problem he has right now is his turnovers, but that is fixable. Decision making is fixable. His accuracy is fine. He was one of the most accurate quarterbacks to ever come out of the draft. He will be fine. Browns fans just need to be patient. After all these years of waiting for a competent quarterback, they need to be patient with the one that they finally got. The next thing I want to talk about is the Atlanta Falcons trade rumors. Like I said before, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, it seems like it's going to be their last year in Atlanta, which is sad for Falcons fans, but I really want to talk about where those two might go. So what I said earlier was that Kyle Shanahan would move off Jimmy Garoppolo if he could get a certain guy. I think that guy is Matt Ryan. He had Matt Ryan in 2016 when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, when they had one of the best offenses of all time. I think that if they could get Matt Ryan, that could really make the San Francisco 49ers a contender. So I think that Matt Ryan will be targeted by the 49ers. I've also heard the Colts might target him. Just contenders that need a quarterback just to take that final next step, I think Matt Ryan could go to. So the biggest candidates for that right now are the 49ers and Colts. And then Julio, I have no idea where he could go because he has not played that well this year. He had one good game last year, but he's been injured. I am worried about Julio. I've heard that maybe the Baltimore Ravens could be a place he could end up. I think he could really end up anywhere. I think he'll want to go somewhere where he could win a Super Bowl. But I think the biggest candidate right now is the Baltimore Ravens. Next thing I want to talk about is Aaron Rodgers. Now, he had an awful game against the Buccaneers, like I said earlier. He threw 2 interceptions, 1 pick six, which is only his 3rd pick six in his career. That's crazy. But the problem is he had 4 or 5 actual turnover-worthy plays. And I'll show them right here. You can see this was he should have thrown a lot more interceptions, and he seemed to just start checking the ball down at the end of the game and even into the second quarter, and I don't like that. To beat the Buccaneers, you're going to have to start taking shots, and I think he cared more about his legacy than getting a win. I think he's defending his legacy at this point. He's not known to be an interception guy, and I think he's trying to defend that image, which I don't like. He should put the team before himself. He should try to win. He's a great quarterback. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. But if you watch the Colin Cowherd show, you'll hear that he actually has a losing record. When he's losing, at any point in the game, he has a losing record. For a Hall of Fame quarterback, that's crazy. He should not do that. I'm not a fan of what Aaron Rodgers is doing. He had a great start to the 4 games, but they didn't play anybody. His first 4 games, they played nobody. So they finally played the Buccaneers, an actual good team, and I think it really showed what the Packers are about. they're not a physical enough team, and they fold when they actually have to get into like a fist fight with the team. They fold in a close game, and that's not going to win them a Super Bowl. It reminds me of last year when they played the 49ers. They got blown out twice by the 49ers. And that's really on Aaron Rodgers. He did not play well enough to win. And then it's on the quarterback, I think. So I think the next thing we have to talk about is Dak Prescott's injury and how it has destroyed the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a dumpster fire in general, and the only thing that was holding them together is Dak Prescott. The NFC East is awful, and the Cowboys had a real shot to win it, but after I saw what they did against the Cardinals, I don't think it's going to happen. They have the worst defense in the league. The Giants had scored, I think, 2 touchdowns before they played the Cowboys and then put up 30 points on them. That's crazy. That shows how bad the Cowboys' defense is. We can talk about who is going to win the NFC least. I'll go through the possibilities for each team because everybody has a chance to win it right now. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, have the number 1 shot of winning it. I liked what they did against the Ravens. Carson Wentz seems to start playing better. I haven't liked what he has done this year, but he's starting to play better. He doesn't have any receivers, but Deshaun Jackson's coming back. People are going to start coming back from injury. The Eagles just seem like the best team. They'll probably win the division at like 6-9-1. The team with the second best chance, I think, is the Dallas Cowboys, just because of how bad this division is. If they can clean up what their defense is doing, which is a big if, but if they can clean that up, they probably have the best chance to win the division, but their defense is really holding them back. Andy Dalton is a competent starter. He's fine. He's not good. He's not even okay, but he's good enough. But I think they have the second best chance. Then I think the Washington football team has the third best chance. I would put them at 2, but I don't think they're going to start Alex Smith. If they do, they might even have the first best chance for me. I like Alex Smith a lot. I think he's a winner. Every team that he's gone to has won. But I think the team is scared about putting him in. I also think Ron Rivera has his guy in Kyle Allen. But if they do finally get Alex Smith in there, I think they have a really good chance of winning this division. It'll be with a losing record, and there'll be a first-round exit in the playoffs. But I think they can win the division if Alex Smith starts. And then finally, the New York Football Giants, worst team in that division, and yet still only 1 game out from being in the lead. That's crazy. I don't think that they can win it. If they were going to, they would have to start scoring again. I've liked what I've seen from Daniel Jones the last 2 games. I think he is the answer for the Giants at quarterback. The rest of the organization is just so useless that it's kind of hard for him to succeed. I think of him kind of like a Sam Darnold guy. He's a good quarterback on a terrible team. But the Giants are not going to win the division. But, yeah. I think, okay, a good pivot to that is going to Sam Darnold. I think, here's a prediction for me. I think he's going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the offseason, I think he'll get traded because the Jets will have the first pick, and I'm sure with the first pick they'll try to take Trevor Lawrence. If I was Trevor Lawrence, I wouldn't go. I would just say I want to go somewhere else. I would refuse to go to the Jets. But Sam Darnold, I think, will get traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster, the number 1 receiver for the Steelers, wants him there. I think he would be a good heir apparent for Ben Roethlisberger. It'll be good to learn from Ben Roethlisberger. And Sam Darnold is a good quarterback, just on a terrible team. Now I want to talk about Lamar Jackson and his regression as a passer. He had a great year last year, and I was kind of shocked with how much hype he was getting this year because I don't know how anybody could think that he would repeat that success. There was a reason that there were running back comparisons coming into the draft. He's not a good passer of the football, especially not when he's throwing to the outside. He's got a nice deep ball, but he's also really inconsistent on that. He's less accurate than Baker Mayfield. He's the number 1 pick, and I'm sure a lot of people would rather have Lamar Jackson than Baker Mayfield, which is crazy because Lamar Jackson will have a shorter career and is not as accurate. Things with Baker Mayfield you can kind of fix, but like Terry Bradshaw said on Monday Night Football, if you're inaccurate, you're inaccurate. You can't really fix that. Lamar Jackson has had more injuries this year, which is worrisome because he's a running quarterback. His mechanics have completely fallen apart, which have affected his accuracy, which was already bad. He just has a great team around him that's kind of masking those issues. But I think in the next 1, 2, 3 years, when the Ravens are not as good of a football team, you'll really see his regression. And I don't think he's going to be that great of a quarterback. My hottest take of the day is that I think that the future for the Panthers at quarterback is Will Grier, their backup. He is from WVU. He was drafted in the third round in 2019. He is a good quarterback. He was put in a terrible situation last year. That is why he played so bad. I think if given the chance, he will be a great starter in the NFL, and I think that Teddy Bridgewater would be a good bridge quarterback for the Panthers, someone that Will Grier can learn from. Will Grier is a good quarterback. He just needs an opportunity. I don't know if he'll get one, so I'm not projecting that he will start ever. But I think if he gets an opportunity, he will show the league that he's a very good quarterback. I believe in Will Grier. I would watch out for him if he does get an opportunity, which I don't know if he will, but if he does. Now I'm going to go into my rankings. We'll start out with quarterbacks. I think the top 10 quarterbacks after Week 6, and this is just going off what we've seen this year. Number 10, Deshaun Watson. He jumped into the top 10 this week with his game against the Titans. And although he lost, his last 2 weeks have impressed me. He's played well. Number 9 is Matt Ryan. He's number 2 in passing yards in the league, only behind Dak Prescott, but he'll pass Dak Prescott very soon because Dak Prescott got injured. 4 touchdowns for Matt Ryan last week. He's thrown a lot of touchdowns. Matt Ryan is a good quarterback. He's deserving of the number 9 spot. Number 8 is Jared Goff. Jared Goff has played well, not great this year. His game against the 49ers, he wasn't really on... he didn't have great chemistry with Cooper Kupp, which was weird to see because they always have great chemistry. Jared Goff is a good quarterback. He'll be fine. Watch for them to bounce back against the Bears next week. He's going to be good. But I just can't put him any higher after what he's done last week. Number 7 is Derek Carr. Derek Carr has impressed me a lot this year. I thought he was going to be good coming into this year, but not this good. It's been very impressive what he did, especially his win against the Chiefs. Derek Carr is number 7. I can see him going higher. Josh Allen is at number 6. He's fallen in the last 2 weeks, and he could keep falling if he keeps up how he's playing. And from the last 2 weeks, he could keep falling on my list. But he still has a great stat line. He's still playing very well. So that puts him at number 6 for me. Number 5, Ben Roethlisberger. He's been playing very well, but it's been very quiet. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about Big Ben, but he's been playing very well this year, and I like a lot of what the Steelers are doing. So I would watch out for Ben Roethlisberger. I think he could even go higher on this list, maybe 4. But he's been playing very well. Number 4 was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is only at number 4 just because of how well he played in the first 4 games. And I'll give Aaron Rodgers the benefit of the doubt because he's Aaron Rodgers from this past week. So I'll keep him at number 4. He was number 1 for me last week. But I'll keep him in the top 5. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he just had a fluke bad game. Number 3 is Tom Brady. Tom Brady's had a very good year this year. He's had 2 games that he didn't look great. The first game and then his game against the Chicago Bears. But he just keeps getting better. And at 43, that is pretty amazing. I don't think he'll go any higher on this list because at 43, I don't think he'll ever be as good as Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes anymore. But this will be about as high as he gets unless he completely goes off, which I can see happening maybe. But I just think Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes are at another level this year. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes. He has had a great year. He's been a little bit inconsistent, actually. Not enough where he looks bad, but he's not really recaptured that 2018 form. He's still a great quarterback. I'm a little worried just because I think if you strip away all that talent, he's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. but that's all just that's me surmising. I don't know. So I would say that Patrick Mahomes is number 2, and the obvious number one is Russell Wilson. He leads the league in passing touchdowns. He is unbelievable this year, unstoppable. I don't think I really have to say anything more. Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the league by far. It's not even close. Now we go into the top 10 teams post week 6. Number 10, I have the Bears. Now I don't have them above the Packers, but I think I could. I want to see what the Packers do, especially when they play the Bears. The Bears are here because of their defense. The defense is unbelievable. I want to see what they do later in the year. I think the Bears could very well beat the Packers in the division, but the Packers have just been so dominant 4 out of the 5 weeks. I couldn't put them above the Packers yet. Number 9, I have the Packers. Their offense has been unstoppable 4 out of the 5 weeks, as I said. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt, just like I will Aaron Rodgers. Maybe it was just a fluke game. We'll see. But that was a worrisome game. They've definitely dropped a lot of spots for me since last week. Number 8, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. They definitely go up after they beat the Chiefs. I think they're a playoff team. 6 or 7 seed, maybe. Derek Carr is playing well. Their young receivers are starting to break out. Their tight end is unstoppable. Josh Jacobs is amazing. I think it's all starting to come together for them and be able to compete for that division maybe next year against the Chiefs. Number 7 is the Ravens. They're worrying me. They keep dropping because they're just playing too close with bad teams. Even against the Bengals, even though they destroyed them, they didn't look great, which is crazy. But they didn't look great. Lamar Jackson didn't look great. So they're worrying me. I don't think the Ravens are as good as everybody says. Number 6 is the Bills. I don't think they're as good as everybody thinks they are now. Their last 2 games have been worrisome, playing the Titans and the Chiefs, and they have not played well against those 2 good teams. So I think they could keep dropping if they don't play as well against good teams. But we'll see. Josh Allen could bring him out of it. They're worrying me right now, so they don't get a top 5 spot for me. Number 5 is the Tennessee Titans. I feel like I'm going to put my foot in my mouth here. They are a good team that plays way too close with bad teams. I think they're going to be great, but I still have some reservations about them just because of how close they played with the Texans. But they have so much talent. The big problem for them is they lost their left tackle for the year, Taylor Lewan, and that's why I have this next team above them. The Pittsburgh Steelers play the Tennessee Titans next week, and I think the Steelers are going to win that. We'll get into that later. But number 4 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They seem to be good on every part of the football. Their running game is actually kind of their weak spot. But everything about them seems great. I was worried about them. It's the same reason I was worried about the Titans, because they just played too close with bad teams like the Eagles. But then they destroyed the Browns, who I think are going to be a good team and make it the playoffs. And so that gave me some comfort, kind of saying that they were a good team. So I believe in the Steelers. I think they're going to be good. Number 3 is the Seattle Seahawks. They're there because of Russell Wilson. They don't have a good defense. They don't have a good O-line. They have great receivers and Russell Wilson and a good running back. That's the only reason that they're there. But they're so good that they are deserving of that number 3 spot. But number 3, 4, and 5, the Seahawks, Steelers, and Titans are interchangeable for me. I just want to see a few more weeks to see where they are. If the Titans beat the Steelers, I think I might put the Titans at the number 3 spot over the Seahawks, but we'll have to wait for that game to see. I don't think the Titans are going to win that game. Number 2 is the Buccaneers, the most talented roster in the NFL, I believe. I can't put them at number 1 yet just because of that Bears loss. They're a good team. They're only going to get better. Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski had a breakout game, finally. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller. Their line is good. Their left tackle that they drafted. Their defense is playing balls out. It's awesome what they did. What they did to Aaron Rodgers should put the league on notice. They might be the number 1 defense in the league. So I can't put them at number 1 yet, but I would watch out for them in the next few weeks. Number 1 is the Chiefs. They have a very talented roster, arguably the most talented. I wouldn't put them above the Buccaneers, but you could argue it. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. They just signed Le'Veon Bell. They keep winning. They only have one loss. It's so hard for a team to go undefeated, so a loss is really nothing. So the Chiefs are number one for right now. Now we go into the predictions for Week 7 in the NFL. We'll start with the Browns at the Bengals. I think the Browns win. I think they win this pretty handedly. I think Baker Mayfield will bounce back during this game. Joe Burrow has not been playing as well the last 2 weeks. So I believe Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns are going to roll over the Cincinnati Bengals pretty easily. The next game would be the Bills at the Jets. The Bills are going to destroy the Jets. The Jets are awful. I don't think Sam Darnold's starting this week. This will be a great bounce-back game for the Bills. Josh Allen will play great. This won't be close. Steelers at the Titans. This will be a really interesting game to watch. I have the Steelers winning a close game here just because of their pass rush and then Taylor Lewan being hurt for the Titans. So I think that the Steelers will get to the Titans, and I think that'll put them over the edge. But I could be wrong. The Titans could very well win this game. We'll have to see. The next game is the Chiefs at the Broncos. I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people expect. Drew Lock is back. He had one game. He has built confidence by beating the New England Patriots. That was big. So I think the Broncos are going to be feeling good walking into this game. I think the Chiefs will win, but it'll be closer than people expect. Next game is the Jaguars at the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to destroy the Jaguars. I'm not really a big fan of Justin Herbert, despite how he's been playing. I don't think he's going to be that great of a quarterback. I think people will figure him out pretty quick. He only has one speed for the ball. He just throws bullets. He's not actually that accurate. He's just got a big arm. But I think Justin Herbert will finish out this year well. Similarly to how Vince Young played his first year, people were really excited about him, and he just kind of fell off. So I think Justin Herbert will destroy the Jaguars. Plus, the Jaguars are terrible. The next game would be the Packers at the Texans. I think the Packers are going to win this, but again, I think this game will be closer than people think. I think the Texans could actually pull off the upset here, but I'm going to go with the Packers just again because I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But watch out for the Texans. The next game is the 49ers at the Patriots. Now, this is Jimmy G coming home to Bill Belichick, and this will be a big matchup. I think Bill Belichick's going to shut down Jimmy G. I think that the Patriots are going to destroy the 49ers. Cam Newton had a game to finally get back into a groove. He'll have practice this week. I don't think this will be close. I think Bill Belichick will be able to destroy his old quarterback pretty easily. The next game is the Buccaneers at Raiders. I think the Buccaneers are going to win a close game here. Derek Carr and the Raiders are a good team, but Tom Brady has always seemed to have John Gruden's number. I just think the Buccaneers are too talented to lose this game, especially coming off a big win against the Packers. They could very well blow out the Raiders here, but I think the Raiders are also really talented, so I would say this is going to be a close game that the Buccaneers win. Now we go to the Giants at the Eagles. This is the toilet bowl. Nobody cares. Whoever wins this game, I don't think anybody cares. I give the win to the Eagles here. I think they'll probably destroy the Giants. The Giants are awful, but they're both awful. I don't really need to talk about this game. The next game is the Lions at the Falcons. I think the Falcons will win this game. I think the Lions could win this game, but I'll give it to the Falcons just because they have more talent. But if DeAndre Swift is able to run all over the Falcons, then the Lions will win. But I think the Falcons will get a close game here. Matt Ryan will play awesome. He usually does. The next game I'll talk about is Cowboys at Washington. I think the Cowboys win a close one here, unless they put in Alex Smith, like I've said. But I don't think they will. I think Kyle Allen will start, and I think the Cowboys will win a close one against the Washington football team. But again, I don't really need to talk about this game. They're both awful. The NFC East is a dumpster fire. It doesn't really matter who wins that. They're not winning a playoff game. Next game I'll talk about is the Panthers at the Saints, and here's my upset of the week. I think that the Panthers are going to win a close game here. I think Teddy Bridgewater will bounce back. I think that the Saints will come in here thinking they're going to win. They have big egos. The Saints are not really. I think they'll come in here thinking they're just going to roll over the Panthers, and I think the Panthers will shock them. I'm not a big believer in the Saints this year. They seem to have a lot of division on their team as well. Michael Thomas is a crybaby. Drew Brees is old and decrepit. Their only good player on offense is Alvin Kamara. And he's a good pass catcher, but I'm not liking the Saints. So move on to the Seahawks at Cardinals. I think the Seahawks are going to destroy the Cardinals. The Cardinals are not as good as we thought they were at the beginning of the year, and Russell Wilson is just going to roll over these guys. I don't really need to talk about this one a lot either. And then the final game is the Bears at Rams. I think this will be a close game, but I think the Rams will get a bounce-back win here. Jared Goff will play well. The defense for the Bears could get them the win. I just think that Sean McVay will dial up something good enough for them to win. That offense is one of the best in the league, the Rams is. So that is the end of the predictions. I will give you my weekly Super Bowl pick. My preseason pick was the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. I'm going to stick with that. I think the Chiefs and the Buccaneers will play, and I think the Buccaneers will win. I'll stick with my preseason pick. And so that'll wrap up the show, I think. I really appreciate you guys who have subscribed already, and I would ask anybody who hasn't to like this video and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Alright, big piece of news that happened way after I edited this video. Antonio Brown has officially signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is a one-year deal, and he will be in the lineup for Week 9. This is crazy, with all the crazy stuff that has happened with Antonio Brown. If he goes crazy like he has in the past, they're really under no obligation to keep him. It's a one-year deal. They can cut him loose anytime they want. So this is a win-win for the Bucs, and this is a win-win. It's a win-win for everybody. And if people remember, Antonio Brown was the best receiver in the league up until, he went off the rails and was cut by everybody. But this is a big deal. So I will keep you guys posted.